Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Sarcasm and Liberty Wednesday night live stream. I am your host, Mike Ursery, aka the Liberty Ginger, and with me, Sarcasm and Liberty team member, our resident meme lord, Michael Leoncello, joining us from Shitlord Preachers, Amos Joseph, and with us once again from Lone Conservative, Pat Sullivan. Gentlemen, how's everyone doing tonight?
Doing good. How are you guys?
How we
Doing
doing?
good.
Excellent.
Not too bad.
All right. So a lot of you have probably seen Captain Marvel since it came out last Friday. I have not seen it. Amos is the only one here who has seen it, and he watched it, so we didn't have to. And so the first thing we're going to do with the show is I'm going to turn this over to Amos and let him give a short recap of just how good this movie was.
Heads up, everyone. Don't watch it until you can torrent it for free on the internet. It's not worth the ticket price. There was a rumor going around that Disney wasn't too happy with the movie, and they had put in motion. This is again a rumor that I saw. They had apparently put in motion for Avengers Endgame, which is the second installment of the Infinity War story arc, I guess you could call it, to incorporate some alternate scenes that would be edited in and swapped out for other scenes in case Captain Marvel completely flopped. Thankfully for them, well, I guess somewhat fortunately, it didn't flop because it had no real movies to compete with it. But Captain Marvel was pretty much, it wasn't as like hardcore feminist girl power pushy as people might have thought it would be, but it definitely has a good, a little more subtle, but there are definitely a few quick little jabs at like, hey, let's get our brownie points in with the feminists. Couple of just lazy writing, Captain Marvel being sort of a weak, I shouldn't say weak, a relatively unknown character in the Marvel's like universe in the comic books. She actually started with DC and then eventually Marvel took her, and they've tried to revive that. From my understanding, they've tried to revive her in the comic books a few different times and it didn't sell too well. And here they are with the movie, and she's apparently stronger than Thanos. So anyways, yeah, it's mediocre at best. It qualifies for the absolute basic criteria of being a Marvel movie, but is nowhere near a good Marvel movie. In terms of origin stories, I'd say it's probably the worst one among the Marvel origin movie stories. And yeah, it's yeah. Probably
I heard that it was basically a 2-hour trailer for Endgame.
Pretty much. I mean, it's basically set in back when so she meets Nick Fury like back in the 80s, and then it just kind of follows her and him going through whatever they're doing, and then you learn about like so have you guys all seen Infinity War?
Yeah.
So they explain like the pager that he had. They explain how he lost his eye, how he became who he was in SHIELD and all that, of course. And then why, you find out what she really is, why she matters. But yeah, it was really just like, hey, let's just throw in that little bit to kind of tie things together. Because it was just very, very basic in terms of the story. Just origin story. There was no real depth, not much substance, and a good little handful of like jabs at a woman that is fighting the patriarchy. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the meme. There was a meme. It basically showed like all the superhero. So it had the meme had a picture of her, and it said, Spider-Man, grew up without his parents. Uncle gets killed in an accident by a criminal, becomes a superhero. Batman, has both his parents killed. as a billionaire, grows up, uses his money to become a superhero. Superman has his entire planet destroyed. All of his people are dead. He becomes a superhero. Captain Marvel doesn't get to play baseball with the boys, gets mad, becomes a superhero. It's pretty much what it says in the movie. Is she was just really wanting to like do what boys were doing, baseball, the military, so on and so forth, until she becomes a pilot, and then it kind of ties into how she becomes who she is.
So she's basically Rudolph that kicks everyone's ass.
Yeah.
Nice.
But
Okay.
yeah.
What is the next Marvel movie that comes out? Is that going to be Endgame?
That is Endgame. Comes out next month, I think.
Oh, yeah. Good. We don't have to wait a long time for it then. Okay. Awesome. All right. Is that going to be the last one, or are they going to keep making?
I just saw something pop up today. It said that's supposed to be the last movie for a while.
They're gonna milk it though.
Hey, Josh.
There's also talk that Robert Downey Jr.'s last movie is Endgame.
Okay. Like his
So-
last movie ever?
No, last Marvel movie.
Oh, okay. I thought you
They
meant
probably
like he
can't
was
afford him
retired.
for his ridiculous demands.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Josh,
Josh is here, so we can swear now. That rule's
Josh,
gonna
you
go
with
up.
us? There he is.
Hey,
Josh, how's it going?
good.
Hey, we were.
Sorry, like it took forever to log in. My wife's computer is like so fucking slow for some reason.
Oh.
And we are off.
We were just talking about Captain Marvel. Have you
Yeah,
seen it?
I was purposely avoiding that because I haven't seen it yet. So I was trying to make sure I didn't catch any spoilers. I'm gonna
No,
try to go
there are
see
no
it this
spoilers.
weekend. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it's worth it though. It's up to
Well, you guys know me. I'm a big comic book nerd, so I'm gonna have to go see it anyway. So
you. You have to see it for the continuity.
I have to see it. Yeah, I don't know. I'll see what it's like. I'll probably say something about it once I actually see it. I'm going to try to go see it this weekend because I have to go van shopping. So that's going to be fun.
Awesome. Okay. So Captain Marvel is not our topic for tonight. What our topic for tonight is Media Matters has found some very old audio footage of Tucker Carlson calling into some radio show called Bubba the Love Gump or whatever it was called. Bubba.
Yeah. I read I read an article written by that guy that runs the show. He wrote something for Bubba the Love Sponge.
That's it, Bubba the Love Sponge.
Yeah, he wrote something for Wall Street Journal. Surprisingly, Wall Street Journal even posted something like this. But he posted a big thing because like the whole point of the show was to be offensive, like hence the name of the title. Like,
yeah.
You know,
like also brought him on his show to talk about
and like, but like you read this article, and it's like if you don't mind me just jump in here real quick because I knew this was going to be the topic, and I saw this and I wanted to see it. I can't get the guy. The name he used for the article he wrote was Bubba Clem. I have no idea what this guy's real name is, but he says, he hosts a comedy-driven radio show for guys, specifically for guys, which is why so much of the humor was like intentionally offensive.
Mm-hmm.
And he says things like, given my on-air name, Bubba the Love Sponge, I assume most people get the joke. We are rude, sometimes profane. And he talks about how Tucker Carlson would call in. And, in like all my guests, he adopted an edgy comic persona for the broadcast, saying, they would intentionally say what they could to be offensive. Like that was supposed to be the joke, is that they're just a bunch of offensive guys talking shit.
Mm-hmm.
So like I read the article and like honestly I listened to like this YouTube video of all the horrible things he said and I was like, that's not that bad. To be honest, it could be way worse. But like I don't know, it sounds like one of those things to me that's just being blown way out of proportion and like people digging up dirt on somebody to like intentionally cling on to one thing. And honestly though, if it was some guy, like if he wasn't like kind of a right-wing dude, like that pisses off a lot of left people all the time, like nobody would give a fuck if they researched all this. Nobody would care.
only that was like 10. It was like 10 years ago. But for anyone who hasn't heard this yet, here's what Tucker Carlson said around 2009 or 2006 or whenever it was.
He didn't. Warren Jeff didn't marry underage girls.
No, he's in prison for facilitation of child rape.
Whatever the hell that means.
That means
he's in prison because he's weird and unpopular, and he has a different lifestyle that other people find creepy.
No, he's an accessory to the rape of children. That is a felony, and a serious one at that.
What do you mean an accessory? He's like got some weird religious cult where he thinks it's okay to, marry underage girls, but he didn't do it. Why wouldn't the guy who actually did it, who had sex with an underage girl, he should be the one who's doing life? The rapist in this case has made a lifelong commitment to live and take care of the person. So he is a little different. I mean, let's just be honest about it. He's not accused of touching anybody. He is accused of facilitating a marriage between a 16-year-old girl and a 27-year-old man. That's the accusation. That's what they're calling felony rape.
But
that's bullshit. I'm sorry. Now, this guy may be a child rapist. I'm just telling you, arranging a marriage between a 16-year-old and a 27-year-old is not the same as pulling a stranger off the street and raping her. That's bullshit.
But you know, in my brief experience, what gets women going is arguing with them.
Really?
Yeah.
Brad, I never use that.
It's true. You debate politics with a woman and just go, just full blown out there, especially feminism. If you're talking to a feminist and she's giving you, men really need to be more sensitive, and just, actually, men don't need to be more sensitive. You just need to be quiet and kind of do what you're told.
And lighten up a little bit.
They love it.
Alexa Stewart, we run into her all the time.
She seems awful.
Yeah, she is awful. They're very cunty.
She seems extremely
I like to hear that word out of, I stepped over me. She seems, what? Now go ahead.
She just does seem a little cunty. Yeah, I mean, you said it. I'm just agreeing with you. I don't use that word.
Right. I'd love for Tucker Carlson tonight on MSNBC. A girl that comes across kind of cunty.
But she does. I mean, I heard her. Now I'm a Brent fan, so I'm stating my bias right out front here. But I heard her on with him, and I just wanted to give her the spanking she said.
I actually want. When she's laying her head in your bed at night, you know who the hell's in her bedroom and what they're doing. Nobody, just her. Well, when she's in a dormitory type setting and these little girls start experimenting around, next thing you know, you got a lesbian on your hands.
I don't think that's likely.
Next thing you know, Brad, what's going on in the Combe dormitory? Nothing. I don't got a PSP to play. I ain't got nothing going on. I ain't got my mom and dad here to tell me that they love me and check me and tuck me in bed. So here's Trixie, and she wants to explore my body a little bit. So, hey, let's go crazy. Wow.
If it weren't my daughter,
that's one theory. Well, I mean,
I just can't, and I just think that's pretty unlikely.
Can you tell them as outlandish as that is? How old is your daughter?
14.
Well, I love women, but they're extremely primitive. They're basic. They're not that hard to understand.
Putting Paris and Brittany in a commercial with Obama is classic old school miscegenation, old South. Uncle Tom. It's old South. These two young white girls are going to be dating a black man.
So they're trying to say that he's coming for your pristine white daughter? Two of the biggest white whores in America?
You want to fuck Sarah Palin. You want to talk
about that? There is that. I'll agree with that.
I feel sorry for unattractive women. I mean, there's nothing they did,
What's better than hockey, weed, and whores? I mean...
But first of all, there's no Canadian woman that you'd want to pay to sleep with. Anybody who answers my trophy wife is my favorite possession is my hero. I don't give a shit. I'm voting for the guy.
Okay,
dude is savage as fuck, man.
Okay, first of all, I like how he calls some woman the C word, and then he says he doesn't like using that word because it's offensive.
Yeah. No, there's some like, but there are things in there that legitimately made me laugh because it's intentionally offensive. Yeah. It doesn't mean I agree with it. Like, I mean, Bill Burr says a lot of stuff that makes me laugh my ass off. Doesn't mean I agree with everything he says. I agree with a lot of what he says, but I'm sitting there thinking, there are so many stand-up comedians now that that is tame compared to what a lot of people say publicly these days. It's because he's a public figure and because he's right-wing that it's a big deal. That's the only reason anybody cares, honestly, is because it's political. They're using it for political points, this guy, you can't listen to anything he says because he said some terrible shit. They're obviously they're goofing off, they're having fun, they're joking about stuff. I seriously doubt anything that they said that they truly, honestly believe. I don't know. It's just
I think it's important to point out that so the group that uncovered, quote unquote, uncovered this publicly available audio is Media Matters, which is kind of a left wing hit group that whose purpose is to they literally said they listened to hundreds of hours of this footage with Tucker to try to find things just to get advertisers to drop, Tucker's show now.
Oh yeah. I think that that's why it's completely political. If he wasn't right wing, nobody would care. Mm-hmm. At least those specific people wouldn't care. I'm sure somebody would care, but it wouldn't be a big deal. It wouldn't matter in the slightest. And that's why I've heard of Media Matters before, and that's the kind of stuff that they do. Is that it's political. It's not even political. It's sabotage. It's going finding irrelevant stuff and trying to make it seem relevant in order to deplatform somebody.
Exactly.
It's gross, to be honest. It's extremely dishonest. It's if they were just upfront about it, I don't know, they could put stuff into context, I feel like. But the fact that they're trying to make sure that it's not in context. And I would read more from this Wall Street Journal article, but they're trying to make me subscribe just to read, and fuck that. I'm never subscribing to that garbage publication.
Well, it's also interesting because this is kind of like the modus operandi of the left-leaning and leftist groups. Is they hold on 1 second.
Okay, real quick though. This is straight from the Media Matters website. It says Media Matters pushes back on conservative misinformation, hypocrisy, and smears. So they're basically saying right up front their whole intention is to target conservatives and to dig up whatever shit they can and try to paint them in a bad light.
Yeah.
It's different if you're actually pointing out a legit hypocritical statement. It's hard to pull out something from somebody's past and then they change their view over something over time and say that's hypocritical, or to it's just nothing. I've heard of them actually this is the first time I've heard from them in a long time, but I've heard of them for a while. But that's always what they seem to do, is they kind of cherry pick information. And it's funny is because what they actually say they set out to do, they're setting out against misinformation from conservatives, but that's actually what they're actively engaging in, is misinformation, cherry picking, tweaking details, pulling irrelevant stuff from the past, things like that. They're always trying to tweak information to seem beneficial to the left, as to paint the you could do the exact same thing against the left. You could pick any leftist politician, dig through their past and find some stuff that's going to, or leftist commentator, and find stuff that's going to make them seem really bad. So it's dumb to kind of build, their whole platform is built on this higher horse mentality, holier than thou kind of thing. And people who are actually watching this or paying attention to Media Matters and really well, obviously he's a bad person now. I don't know. It's just, you're being easily manipulated.
Well, what's interesting here is that, Tucker is not the only person that they're going after. I've also seen where they've launched some attacks against Jeanine Pirro, Judge Jeanine on Fox News, who's another really influential Fox News personality. And so now there's conspiracy theories floating around about how this is actually tied to the 2020 election. They want to try to do away with all the influential conservative commentators that might help to hold back the conservative message and just kind of take the any kind of momentum or anything from the GOP. So let's just say that this is tied to the 2020 election. Because with the timing of it, Democrat primaries are getting ready to start up, and then Trump will be campaigning for 2020 pretty soon.
He already is.
Yeah. Well, of course, yeah, he already is. But I mean, he's later on, he's really going to ramp it up as it gets closer to next year.
Well, I'm gonna say, I think if your theory is correct there, and they're just trying to do it to sabotage the conservative voice for 2020, to make it lean their way. I think that's a big mistake because, I mean, you really think about it, things are more owned on the smaller internet level, and what you're giving the people now is more fuel. So it's like, you know, all like you're theorizing. It's like people are also theorizing this, and they're putting it out in their blogs. They're making memes about it, and you know that's gonna reach a hell of a lot more people than some show on Fox that barely anyone watches.
You're right.
I know a lot of people watch it, but it's such a larger audience on Facebook and stuff like that. I'm sure even most people that are familiar with Tucker Carlson have never actually watched it on Fox News, but have only seen snippets of his stuff on YouTube or Facebook.
Okay.
Honestly, I barely knew who Tucker Carlson was. Like, it was just shit from like I said, shit from YouTube and like that. Like I barely really knew who the guy was. But this is the thing too, though, is it's just like with the Trump stuff, like during his campaign, where they try to pull up stuff from his past. All you're really gonna do, you're not exposing anything really. All you're doing is further ingraining people into their sides. You're going to have the people on the left who already didn't like this guy more not liking this guy. You're going to have people on the right who already like the guy, further liking the guy, or just defending them even though they might not like the actions. You're going to have the people in the middle caring less and less because it's completely like irrelevant to anything. Like something somebody said like 10 years ago, I don't fucking care. Like I could look back at things I've said 10 years ago and be like, yeah, I was stupid. Like that. I don't even know I would say things like that. And I think everybody could look back 10 years ago and find all kinds of stuff that they'd be like, yeah, I don't know, I would have said that. Or I was, trying to be edgy or something, like all kinds of stuff. Everybody has stupid stuff they said in their past. So, I mean, like there would be much more impactful if somebody like Media Matters pulled up something current and relevant Tucker Carlson was saying and said, look at this, and had an impact, like that would be way more relevant. And I think it kind of goes to show how like shady their platform has to be, that rather than targeting what Tucker Carlson actually currently says, they're digging into his past to find things to try to deplatform what he now says. Because it's like, if you don't have like proper evidence, proper counterpoints to something Tucker Carlson says now, and you resort to going into his past to try to deplatform him, that kind of makes it more seem like you don't have good counterpoints. Well, you have nothing relevant to say.
It's interesting because Tucker, he actually holds a lot of liberal policies. He's borderline socialist, in fact.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
He's very populist. It just reinforces the idea that leftists don't want to encounter other ideas. They just want to shut down any opposing view,
I think
no matter what it is.
A good example of that is what I've been seeing is what's her name? Tulsi Gabbard or whatever. Mm-hmm. She's that Democrat candidate that's like and she's been getting a little bit more popular because she's very, very anti like war and against these terrible foreign policies, so much that even the left has started to like actively like there's this thing with her on the Colbert Report where he's actually defending us like actively like deposing regimes and stuff in the Middle East. And like you would be against that, typically. Like it's the left is so willing to blatantly be pro-war just to depose somebody who is like slightly against, say, Hillary Clinton or Elizabeth Warren. Like they have a policy that doesn't quite match up with their like big heroes that they have. They're not like, this idea that the left is even anti-war is insane. I don't know where people keep getting this idea because they're obviously not. So much that when you have a candidate that's very blatantly anti-war, they're being pushed to the side, and they're being like, you know, like people are trying to like dig dirt up on her and try to paint her in a bad light and stuff like that. Democrats are doing this to her because she's anti-war. She's very much a socialist. Like, she wants, you know, free health care and all this other stuff, you know, like she has all those ideas that leftists, but because she's anti-war, she's like an outcast in the left. It's so weird how they have that kind of mentality. Like, you have to fully 100% like fall in line with them. And even something you think that they would be like in line with, like anti-war, they will lash out at you for not falling in line. I don't know. It's very weird. I've been seeing a lot of that lately.
And yeah, like to say, to reinforce your point about Tucker, like, you know, his fans are just gonna like him more. The people that have always hated him are still gonna hate him.
Yeah.
So nothing really changed. And it's like with Tucker Carlson, it's like, are you really surprised that he said something ridiculous? Because like, his character is rambunctious as it is. It's almost like, you know, being surprised about Alex Jones, you know, saying what he did on what's his name podcast. And it's like, yeah, that's crazy. That's hilarious. We're gonna share it around because it's, you know, absolutely bonkers. But it's Alex Jones. We expect that from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched Tucker's show a few times on Fox News, and I mean, he's not that savage, but I mean, he does have a few.
Right.
He does make a few jokes. He does have a few. He does say some things about, like, I remember like one time he interviewed some woman who writes for, I think it was like Teen Vogue or 17 magazine, but she was like a politics writer, and he told her to stick to writing about boots or something like that. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was pretty funny. It was actually really funny. She was offended. And
he's kind of like a diet Alex Jones.
Well, it's also interesting that a comparable example on the left would be somebody like Jimmy Kimmel, who hosted like a man-oriented TV show.
Yeah.
And it's just crickets.
That's a good point, because I mean, like, if you don't have to dig far into Jimmy Kimmel's past to find things that the left would vehemently disagree with or take issue with, even just in some of his stand-up stuff, you know, like he wasn't quite as liberal as he is now, or more. Maybe he was, but at least he was under the understanding that it's okay to make jokes, you know, and he's definitely changed a lot, but yeah, there's not an outrage there, you know. Like, I'm sure most people are aware of that already, of his past. That's where I think people first started learning his name to begin with. It does show a kind of an obvious bias there. You know, digging into people's past, because it's funny, like to bring up the Trump thing again, like Trump versus Hillary, like you dig into Trump's past, and he said a bunch of stupid, like, derogatory stuff towards women. Dig into Hillary Clinton's past, and there's a bunch of horrible, god-awful political shit, like shady stuff she's done politically, to show, like, look, Hillary Clinton's a shady, terrible politician. Trump's just a fucking dumbass blowhard. But it's more important that Trump said mean things than Hillary Clinton having a record of actually being a bad politician. You know, it shows this obvious bias in the media on how people want to view things. They want to see more of the bad in, like, specific people, and are more willing to write off the bad. Like, if I saw some leftists making these exact same Tucker Carlson comments, I'd have the exact same opinion. I don't care what his background is. I know nothing really about him, honestly, beyond that he was on Fox News. I've never watched his show. I've like seen a couple YouTube clips. I have no like for the guy. I have no love for him. I don't know much about him, but nothing he said, I feel like, is so horrific, you know, that, especially considering, like, if he was saying it these days, I could at least concede that they might have a point, you know, just in that, like, it, you know, there's some, like, I don't know, they might have a point, maybe, but the fact that it was so long ago, it's completely irrelevant. You know,
know what it is too. It's about the appropriateness of the situation. Like this radio show was aimed to be like that, and he was a guest, and he was playing his part as part of the show.
Yeah, exactly.
If he said that at a dinner party, I would think maybe it would be a little bit troublesome.
That's an excellent point, because like if you actually like look up that Wall Street Journal article, like I said, I would read more of it, but they're trying to make me like subscribe just to read it, and fuck that. The guy who ran the radio show wrote this article, and he's specifically saying people, not just Tucker Carlson, people, him himself that ran the show, put on a comedic persona that was intentionally trying to be offensive. And it was supposed to be this like stupid radio show for guys intentionally, like, so they would say offensive things like that. And it doesn't mean that that's how he felt. They're joking around, like it's comedic purposes.
Exactly. And I think that's where Jimmy Kimmel, gets a pass, where it's like, and even more so because that was an actual like show, whereas Tucker Carlson, like, even though he's an entertainment for entertainment purposes, he's on a news channel doing a news show, so people take him a little bit semi-seriously than Jimmy Kimmel on the Man Show, which was an obvious comedy sketch show.
Yeah, well, and like Jimmy Kimmel's doing a talk show, so I guess like people who do these political commentaries are typically held to like these different standards, which I think is just it's stupid to do that.
Yeah, because what Jimmy Kimmel got away with on the Man Show, he can't get away with on whatever it is he does, the Tonight Show or whatever.
Yeah, he wouldn't get away with the same stuff.
Yeah, even though it's nighttime, it's it's still, you got to have a little bit cleaner of a slate.
Well, and then too, like if I feel like if he started doing some of that stuff, people would be calling him out for it too. And I think he probably particularly he tries to, he does have some humor on there that would be potentially offensive. Honestly, it's hard. You can't do humor that's not potentially offensive because everybody will be offended by something. Somebody will be offended by something.
But it's a completely different fan base.
Yeah,
like the fan base that watches them now isn't the same Comedy Central fan base of whatever year the Man Show was in.
I wouldn't.
I
wouldn't seek out a show like a radio show for feminists by feminists telling like feminist type jokes and listen to it and start cherry picking stuff out of it and being like, well, this just isn't funny. Like, well, yeah, it's not funny to me. It's not meant for me. Of course, it's not going to be funny to me. Like, that's the whole point, like you don't go looking for a show geared at a specific audience that their intention is to be like raunchy and funny and like offensive, and then be like, well, I'm offended by this. I'm like, well, yeah, you're probably offended by it because you're not the target audience for it. It doesn't mean like, I don't know how many people that would actually listen to that show and feel like, yeah, women are terrible people or something like that. There might be some guys, but I think most people are just laughing at it. Like, honestly, that's probably the kind of stuff my wife would laugh at because she knows it's not serious. It's stupid stereotype stuff, like it's funny to poke fun and stuff like that. Cause like, that's me and my wife joke around like that with each other all the time. We'll make fun of each other in that way, like stereotypical kind of stuff. I mean, she makes fun of me for being colorblind and stuff, like, cause I can't tell like certain colors and I'll mess them up all the time. And she'll rip on me for that, like it's fun. It's okay to like be offensive in like this joking, non like aggressive way. It's fine. But if you're the kind of person who feels offended by that, you just need to remove yourself from that. That's the whole point of like, you don't have to tune into this radio station. You don't have to seek out these clips. Just ignore it if you don't like it, and live the rest of your life. It doesn't mean that the person making these jokes, like other things they say in life, don't hold value. It's not like, what somebody does in their private life, like doesn't mean publicly like political or moral things they try to like practice and preach doesn't mean they don't hold value because they do something you particularly don't agree with, like in private or in a completely different setting.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's, the whole idea of like the censorship thing. It's like, if you don't, want to see it, don't turn on that channel. If you don't want your kid to listen to that album, don't buy it for them. Simple stuff like that. And I completely forgot where I was going with that.
That's fine.
I had it and I lost it. Stoner moment.
Okay. There was something that Pat had said earlier today. what you were talking about, kind of how this whole thing with Media Matters versus Tucker Carlson, this also kind of ties in with the whole feud between the GOP and the Democrats, and about how we live in a society that does not practice grace. But if we did, this would not even be an issue right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Pat, you there?
His,
He's muted.
yeah, his mic's off right now, so he might have stepped away.
Okay. Okay, but yeah, this kind of really does kind of, like, Pat makes a pretty good point that this does kind of tie into that too, because yeah, when you look at how discourse goes, like, you know, especially online, there is zero grace between people, and it's all just attacks and smears and name calling and everything else. But this also kind of ties in with the GOP versus the Democrats, because they're gonna fling attacks at each other, and you're gonna see outlets on both sides of the spectrum doing the same to each other, and it's all just a ploy to rally their respective bases, just like always.
Yeah, with the election coming up, it's insane how there's going to be a lot of virtue signaling. There's going to be a lot of just cherry picking, bashing, like so much. It's going to get worse and worse until like at least a few months after the election.
That's going to get bad. Amos, you've been quiet. You have an opinion on this?
Huh? No. No, I just I think it's a good thing that Tucker Carlson is pretty much not apologizing, being
That's
very
good, yeah.
just sticking to his guns. I mean, like, listening to all the comments he made in the video you just played, honestly, I think it's just funny. Just the stuff he's saying, the way he says it and what he's saying, it's hilarious. It's basically you're exaggerating observations you make about women. Like, comedians used to be able to do that all the time without really getting into too much trouble, and they'd piss off a handful of little feminists, and that'd be that. They'd still sell out their shows and making their money, and they don't care. But nowadays, you know, some high-profile target, which is really what it is, when you're a high-profile target of the left, you high-profile target that is being pointed out by the left, they will find anything they can to try to come after you. It's just typical shaming tactics. You find something that society is seeing as, at least you're pushing the narrative that society sees something as bad, and so you try to shame someone into basically giving up and admitting defeat in that they did some, they're not playing your rules. And the worst thing you could do is apologize, because then you're playing their rules and you lose every time. So once you decide that fuck your rules, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, I'm going to still make my jokes, do my show. And really, he made a good, his statement was pretty clear. Anyone who knows me and watches my show will understand that there's a real, like, the person he is on the show is not the person who was talking 10 years ago. I've seen some like candid interviews, people like approach him on the street and talk to him and stuff. He's changed his views a few times. So, not that I necessarily agree, but I mean, for that, just for what he did, and he's not apologizing, I give him kudos for that.
Yeah, that's nice that he's not doing that. That's something that people give into way too much these days.
And the thing too is that, once you apologize, they pretty much own you from there. There's no coming back from that.
Mike, Pat said he's back, by the way, if you want to ask him.
Okay, Pat, what I was saying earlier, there was something that you said earlier today about how we live in a society that does not practice grace, and this whole thing with Tucker and Media Matters, it also kind of ties into what's going on between the GOP and between the Democrat Party. And I was going to ask you to elaborate a little bit on what you were saying earlier.
Oh, well, actually, 1 second. The baby woke up again.
Oh God,
I'll be right back.
He's got some bad timing. Oh yeah, hopefully he'll come back soon.
Uh-oh.
I'm sure he'll let us know in the chat when he's back.
Yeah.
Where were we at before that? I know Amos was. We were talking about him not apologizing and.
Yeah.
I think that's good too, because I think we're already slipping into it. But I think we're gonna see like the next big wave of censorship, like happened in the '80s, coming very soon, because they're trying to take away prominent, right-wing speakers, people who are, using crude humor and stuff like that. So it's only a matter of time before they really start making motions towards this kind of stuff.
I mean, if you so you guys remember kind of when this whole I guess apologizing for just basically apologizing for being a guy kind of really took off. If you remember, I think it was NASA, where a group of scientists were doing, there was some project to basically land an unmanned probe.
The shirt.
Yeah, so he lands this like unmanned probe onto an asteroid, which is like a monumental achievement in spaceflight. Like you get to land something on a moving object. It opens up a whole bunch of things, like mining or just getting there and stuff. And the guy was wearing a shirt, like a Hawaiian shirt with a pattern of like bikini girls or something. And I mean, he's just like, you hear about these like NASA scientists. They do these projects for years or months and years at a time, and they pretty much live at NASA. And they're just wearing whatever's comfortable. They're just wearing stupid stuff. Like, you wait long enough, you're gonna see some guy wearing like just whatever. So he's wearing that, and basically, he goes on the news to basically like share in his achievement, answer to the media what he did. And the guy gets absolutely shamed and ridiculed to almost to death with because he was wearing this bikini pattern shirt with chicks on it. Now he's a sexist, misogynist, woman hating, anti-fem, whatever he is. They call him all these words, to the point the guy actually had to hold another press conference completely to just diminishing any accomplishment he made in aerospace. Just wow. I gotta like go on the news now to apologize. The dude's freaking crying.
Yeah,
it's like, that's just, whereas you see rampant posts and tweets all over the internet talking about how men shouldn't exist. Because we're the number one committers of crime, we should just not exist for the good of society.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Why are people so stupid?
That one really pissed me off. I mean, it was like totally overlooking the scientific achievement and focusing. The funny thing is the person that made the shirt that he was wearing was a woman. A woman made that shirt, and all these women were like, well, that's so offensive to women, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, how? Like, it was so fucking dumb. I remember that one pissed me off so much.
People are stupid. It's that outrage mob. And like, I don't know what it is about Twitter, but all the just idiotic, easily offended, sensitive people just gravitate towards Twitter. And this is where all this stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you don't see the real world through Twitter, but you see a lot of stupidity on that platform. We see it every single day. I mean,
but isn't that the real world?
What's that?
But isn't that the real world? A lot of stupidity.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You realize.
Well, Twitter makes it worse.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Twitter just highlights it, like it.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, purposes and when you go out to get your morning paper or what have you, but.
I've had people come at me and say like, "Oh, like how can you see? Like how can I can't take you seriously because you're using Twitter as a source for news?" And I said, "Well, understand Twitter is a reflection of the culture and of society. It's not a perfect reflection, but it's a reflection. And you look at how many people are actually on Twitter, and you start to realize Twitter has some validity. Like, more people are getting news and such from Facebook and Twitter every day. Something happens, and then within 5 to 10 minutes, it goes viral and takes off in Twitter. And someone is doing a live feed through Periscope of what's going on the ground. It used to be like if there was a car accident, you didn't hear about it till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now, if there's like a natural disaster, and whoever has a cell phone in Twitter is just, it's going up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's at the point where it's like if you're a reporter, you could be taking a leak and miss like the biggest story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I am tired.
And just to in honor of Tucker Carlson, I'll make this little joke. So you guys remember it was International Women's Day, right?
Yeah.
You know why there's no International Men's Day?
I saw this the other day. Yeah, tell us.
Because it would take more than one day to honor all of our achievements.
I didn't see it this year, but I do remember like before there were actually women complaining that like they only get a day, and African American like Black History Month is a whole month. Like I haven't seen.
Oh, come on. No.
I remember like I don't know if it was last year or a couple years ago, but I remember that was like a legit thing. Like it's such a problem that Black History Month is a whole month and International Women's Day is only one day. And I'm like, nobody fucking cares. Like, you know why International Women's Day is just one day is because you keep saying shit like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, half of Black History Month is for women, so it's like, you know, they get that victory there. So,
I mean, you could go further and say, well, you guys just got to vote. They got actual freedom.
Yeah.
Like they got to vote and get and learn, you know, have property, have freedom, have, you know, status as like regular citizens. They went the whole way from slavery up to citizens. What did women get?
The right to vote.
The right to vote. Equal opportunity. That's about it. I mean, what was it? One of the first billionaires was a Black woman. If you guys remember that.
Oprah?
No. Back in like just before the Depression, she was like selling makeup or something like that. Black woman, like basically had some product line that made her billionaire.
Mary Kay or something?
I think so, yeah. And then I'm
just going out to popular brands.
I've seen also like studies that have like delved deep into how like whorehouses were huge economic centers where women could like be empowered to make lots of money.
Yeah. And now that's illegal.
Granted, yeah, but you want to talk like empowerment and women and stuff, like you can look at it from different ways, but there's anyways.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it is legal in Nevada, also like, you know, in different countries, but you know, obviously, we got one state. We just need to get 49 more. I'm sorry, 51. Oh, that was
It'll probably never happen. It will probably never happen. Anyone else have an opinion on Tucker Carlson?
I think he's stupid, but I don't think he's wrong in this situation. That's pretty much it.
We gotta talk about why he's stupid sometime.
yeah, that would be fun. I don't know. His voice annoys me. I don't know. It's just nothing about him I like, but I don't have any issues against him really.
I think he's pure comedic gold. Like he's got his bit worked out.
He is funny. I'll give him
It's
that.
like he just brings a guest on, and then it's like he gives them like the most disgusted look while they're talking, and then like he says a bunch of nonsense afterwards.
That is-
cuts them off, calls him an idiot.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't know if Tucker does this anymore, but like for a while, he would just go out and just find the stupidest people he could find to explain their position on an issue, and they would do it so poorly, and he would just give that dumbfounded look, like while they're talking. It was hilarious.
Yeah,
I don't know if he does it anymore, but he used to do it.
I've seen some like gifs and stuff of him and memes. I always think that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really don't have any issue with the guy. I just like, I don't know. I see some stuff and I'm like, oh, it's funny. And I see some stuff and I'm like, that's really stupid. And I'm like, that's pretty much how I think about everybody though. So like, I know enough about the guy to really have an opinion, to be honest. I just think whatever's like some stupid shit he said 10 years ago is definitely not. Actually, honestly, legit laughed out loud the first time I heard some of this stuff on that clip you played earlier. Like some of the stuff he said was pretty funny.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. If you guys are seeing what I'm sharing right now.
Yep.
Stares and Republican.
That's the look. Oh, that's great. Oh man. All right. I don't know what topic we're going to have next week. We kind of play it by ear each week. But we will be back next week, maybe at 9 p.m. Eastern time instead of 10. We'll see what happens. But until then, Michael Leoncello, the Godfather himself, Josh Gillum, Joseph, Matt Sullivan, and myself, Mike Ursery, for Sarcasm and Liberty. Have a good night. We'll see you all again next week.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.